Chapter 17, The First Freedom Struggle. In the 15th and 16th century, the Portuguese set up trading or business centers in Cannanore, Kerala. Soon the Dutch, the French, and the British traders followed the Portuguese and set up their trading centers in India. To gain supremacy and obtain profits, they fought with each other. In this battle, the British defeated the other trading companies and acquired complete control over trade in India. The English East India Company was formed in 1600 AD in England by a few rich merchants. It traded with India and earned huge profits. The company set up its factories, godowns, and forts in Surat, Chennai, Madras, Kolkata, Calcutta, and Mumbai, Bombay. It tried to increase its territories through wars and cunning moves. Gradually, the Britishers became powerful financially. They took advantage of the lack of unity among Indian rulers. Over the next 200 years, they gained control over most parts of India. Discontent among the Indians. The British wanted to reap more profits out of the trade with India. For this, they adopted unfair and cruel means. They exploited the resources of India for their own benefit. They did nothing to improve the conditions of the Indians. Farmers in Bihar were forced to grow indigo for the textile mills in England. The poor farmers faced starvation. Similarly, Indian weavers were ruined as all the raw material was purchased by the British traders at a very low price for their mills in England. The Indian traders were not allowed to trade in articles of their choice. The British did not allow Indians to open mills and factories. The kings and nawabs too lost their freedom. Many unjust, unfair, and wrong laws were introduced by the British to grab Indian kingdoms. If a king died without an heir, his kingdom was attached to the British part of India. There was a feeling of insecurity and discontent among the ruling class too. During the British rule, the officers of the company received huge salaries, while the Indians were engaged for petty jobs only. The Indian soldiers in the British Army too were discontented as they were badly treated. All these factors led to general dissatisfaction and anger among Indians against British rule. Everybody, including farmers, workers, traders, kings, and nawabs, faced injustice. The revolt. There were dissatisfaction and anger over the British rule among the general people. There were many uprisings in various parts of the country prior to 1857. But those uprisings lacked unity. The revolt of 1857 was an important landmark in our struggle for freedom. It was the first war for independence. The Indian soldiers recruited in the British Army at Meerut started the revolt. Mangal Pandey ignited the revolt. As said earlier, the Indian soldiers were treated badly. They were not given higher positions in the army. The immediate cause of the revolt by the Indian soldiers in 1857 was the cartridge incident. A new rifle, the Enfield, was introduced. The cartridges for this rifle were supposed to be greased with fat. A rumor spread among the soldiers that fat of cows and pigs was used in the cartridges. The Hindu as well as the Muslim soldiers were offended to know this. The soldiers refused to use the cartridges. Some soldiers shot down their officers, broke open the prisons, and set free their fellows. The revolt was sparked off in Meerut. It soon spread to other parts in northern and central India. Almost all the sections of the Indian society joined the revolt. The last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, was declared as their leader. Nana Sahib at Kanpur, Tansha Tope in Bundelkhand, Rani Lakshmi Bai in Jhansi, and Begum Hazrat Mahal in Awadh led the struggle in their respective areas. Displaced people. British rule brought drastic changes to the lives of many Indians. Landlords who had for long enjoyed land and social privileges found themselves stripped of their land and left impoverished. Artisans who were patronized by the Indian rulers now had no patrons amongst the new British rulers and were out of work. The subsidiary alliance had forced many kings to disband their armies in order to meet the costs of maintaining the mandatory British troops, and this resulted in large-scale unemployment. These displaced people became major enemies of the British rule in India. Suppression of revolt. In the beginning, the revolt was an instant success, but later, within a year, it was crushed by the British. The revolt had failed in its objective of overthrowing the British power, although it did result in some far-reaching changes. The revolt of 1857 failed because it suffered from weak leadership and was hardly organized. This proved a major handicap when dealing with the well-trained and equipped British troops. Also, the revolt failed to extend to all parts of the country, and large sections of the population did not support it. In fact, the British were able to use many divisions of the Indian unit of their army in suppressing the revolt. The revolt, however, made an impact on the British power. The English East India Company was replaced by the British Crown. The revolt had created a sense of a nation amongst the Indians, and these nationalistic feelings would eventually result in the freedom struggle. Innumerous Indians lost their lives in this revolt. Many were executed or imprisoned. The East India Company was also dissolved. Its territories were taken over by the British government. Indian princes were allowed to rule their territories under the British authority. A new Governor-General, called Viceroy, was appointed in India to rule the country for the English Queen.